In this third part on how to build chords from scratch, you're going to be learning to play chords rooted on the fourth string. There's a lot of really nice voicings here in this segment that you're going to want to learn to play. And we're also going to give you some inversions as well that are all rooted on the fourth string so that you can see that this opens up some very interesting possibilities for you to explore and experiment with. All right, so let's just get right to it and show you how it's done. The first chord we're going to focus on is the major chord. Now, in the dictionary, in the upper left-hand corner there, you see the major chord spelling is 1, 3, 5. And we've dealt with that previously as well, so we know for certain it's 1, 3, 5, okay? So we're on the fourth string root, so we have our root right here. That's the 1. And we have a 3 right here, as we can see. We're using the major scale, again, to find everything. And then here's the 5. And then we have another root right here. And then we have another 3 right here. Well, now we have a 3 and a 5 on the same string, but there aren't any available 5s that are reasonable. I mean, yes, there's a 5 here. And just as an aside, you may have noticed these gray notes on the previous two segments. All they are is telling you these are other locations of some of the notes that are available. And we'll get a little more into that in just a few minutes on how you will use those. So for the moment, we're on the major chord. And so we have a 1, 3, 5, 1, and 3. Now, yes, there's a 5 here and there's a 3 here. But we're going to stay rooted with the fourth string as the lowest note for the moment. So because we have a 5, a 1, and a 3 right here, that's a familiar shape. You should recognize that. That's the D shape. And you have a 1 here. So what we're going to do is we're going to ignore this 3 and use this 3 over here and combine it with these. So here's our shape right here. And how you would fret this is you use your first finger here. You'll use your second finger here, your third finger here, and your fourth finger here. So there's your shape. Okay, so let me demonstrate. So what we're dealing with is, again, the major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now we got the 1 here, because we're fourth string root. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you've got a 3 and a 5 on the same string, so you got to get rid of 1. And since this is the only viable 5, for the sake of this demonstration, that 3 goes away, so we got to find another one. 5, 6, 7, 1, 8, or 1, 2, 3. Okay, there's another 3, right? So we have the 5, the 1, and the 3. Oh, so we can do that. And then add the root on the bottom. Now, you may recognize this as the D form in the cage system, and it's the G chord, so we'd say it's the D form of the G major chord. Okay, pretty cool, huh? All right, there you go. Now, let's talk about the major chord inversion. This is where these gray notes will now come into play. All right, so we have our 1 rooted on the fourth, so we're going to stay rooted on the fourth. And we have the 5 and the 1 and the 3. Now, what we're going to do is something very simple because it's obvious. You have a low E and you have a high E. Now, if this is G and that's the 5th fret, then what we have here at the 7th fret is a B, which is the 3 tone of the major chord. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this 3 and we're going to put it down here below the root. So the 3 is the second note of the chord, so it becomes the first inversion, okay? So we're going to play the 1, the 5, another 1, and we're going to play this 3, and we're going to mute the low A string and the high E string. So now your fingering is going to change a little bit. You're going to keep your first finger here. You're going to put your second finger here, your third finger here, and your fourth finger here. All right? Let me demonstrate. All right, as you can see by the diagram, we're taking the 3 and moving it over here as we described earlier. That's your 3 because they're both B's, and that's why it's a G over B. The over B means the B is the lowest note in the voicing of the chord, and that's what slash chords are about. This is a G over B. It's called a slash chord. The B on the right side of the slash is the lowest note, and that's the lowest note in this voicing. So we're taking your first finger, your second finger is playing the 3 now, your third finger is playing the 5, and your fourth finger is playing the second 1. So you got 2 1s, a 3, and a 5, right? Just like that. Now we're going 7, or excuse me, 8, or 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, using the grayed out notes to show you how we get there. 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. We're counting backwards now, right? And that's how we know that's the 3. That's the other way you can know this is the 3. You know it's a 3 because of that, but you can count it backwards. 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. And be sure because you're playing the major scale backwards. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. All right? So we play it backwards, and you know you're on the 3. All right, here's a bonus chord. Take your 3 and flatten it 1 fret. G minor, because you've got a 1, flat 3 now, and 5, and another 1 there. Okay? Now, if you want to play it here, that's where you put it there, so you do basically this. And there is your D form of the G minor chord. Right? Or you can play it here. Take your pick. Dealer's choice, all right? There you go. Let's now talk about the major 7 chord. Now, in your dictionary, as you can see, a major 7, and as we've discussed previously, is a 1, 3, 5, 7 spelling. So using the major scale, starting at the 1 on the 4th string, you have a 1, 3, 5, 7. You got a 1 and a 3. Now, you can see a 5, a 7, and a 3 are all together. And that just means you just need a 1 right there. So you'll use your first finger here and your third finger across all 3 notes. So we've taken the 1 from the major chord and just dropped it a half step back to the 7. So there you go. But you're going to use your first and your third finger here. Let me demonstrate. All right. The major 7 chord is, of course, you look in the dictionary, spelled 1, 3, 5, 7. And we're rooted on the 4th string. Now, assuming you don't have a diagram like the one pictured, you're going to have to understand you need to use the major scale to find the notes. So let's do just that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 1, 2, 3, right? So we know again, 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. Now we've got a 3 and a 5 on the same string, okay? Well, we know there's a 5 here, 1, 7, 6, 5. But we don't want to use that one because we want the root to be the lowest note. So there's a conflict here, and we need this 5 because it's the only one reasonably accessible to our fingers at the moment. So the question is there another 3? Well, let's keep looking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. Well, as a matter of fact, yes, here's your 3. And it happens to be on the same fret as the 5. So all we need now is to find where is the 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, look at that. It's right next to the 3 and right next to the 5. So all 3 notes are on adjacent strings at the same fret. Very convenient. And you got your 1, and there's your major 7. This is why it's important to know how to spell chords, and even if you have a diagram, what are the specific intervals you're playing? Well, we know this is the 1. Now we know this is the 5, this is the 7, and this is the 3. Now we know that, and here's why it's important. Bonus chord, all right? You're going to now see how to come to terms with learning a minor 7 flat 5 chord rooted on the 4th string. In this case, we're going to stay in G. You look in the dictionary, the minor 7 flat 5 is spelled 1 flat 3 flat 5 flat 7. All right? So we're going to use what we know, the major 7, because that's 1, 3, 5, 7, to find the minor 7 flat 5, which is 1 flat 3 flat 5 flat 7. Well, because we know this is a 3, we flatten it. We know this is the 7, we flatten it. We know this is the 5, we flatten it. So there are the flats of the 3, 5, and 7. Add the 1. There's your minor 7 flat 5. All this because we started with what we know to find what we're looking for. Because we knew 3, 5, 7, and all those needed to be flattened to create a G minor 7 flat 5. Pretty cool, huh? Now, let's do the major 7 inversion. Can you guess what we're going to do? That's right. We're going to take that same 3 from before and move it over there. So now you'll be playing this, but not this. So this will be muted and the 5th string will be muted. So your 1st finger goes here, your 2nd finger here, 3rd and 4th finger here. Let me demonstrate. Okay, so now the inversion of the major 7 chord is really very straightforward. Just like with the major chord, we're going to cheat a little and keep it easy. Now, you know that the major 7 chord is spelled 1, 3, 5, 7, and the notes are G, B, D, and G, B, D, and F sharp being the 7. Okay, so we have a G, a D, F sharp, and a B. Now we're on the 1st string with the B. Well, we know the 6th string also is E, and so the B is at the 7th fret, just like here. So we're just going to transfer it over there. So instead of barring the 3 notes across here, we're going to stand up and play the 5 and the 7 with our 3rd and 4th fingers, so our 2nd finger can come over and play the B on the 6th string. Our 1st finger is still playing the root. So it's a pretty cool little voicing of the major 7 chord. All right, and we know this is the 3 because we can go backwards. 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, right? Or we can come up from the 1, 1, 2, 3, right? So either way, we know that's a 3 tone, just to double check, because we know the intervals. And it's really just that straightforward, all right? All right, let's look at the dominant 7 chord. So we know from the dictionary, dominant 7 is 1, 3, 5, flat 7. Now remember, we've left the flats and sharps off of the diagram to keep it clean. And we know that you move up or down a half step, or 1 fret. If you want to sharp something, you move up 1 fret. If you want to flat something, you move back or down in pitch a half step or 1 fret. So we know the minor 7 or the major 7 chord right here that we were playing before, right? So you know you got a 1, a 3, and a 5, and here's the 7, so you just move the 7 back 1 fret and you've got your dominant 7. So you'll play with your first, your third, second, and fourth fingers to make this shape. Okay, now let me demonstrate. Okay, the dominant 7 chord, pretty straightforward stuff. Now, you have the diagram there, but let's say, again, you don't have the diagram, so you need to know where your notes are. First, you go to the dictionary. Dominant 7 is 1, 3, 5, flat 7. So the major scale, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. All right, so where's our 1s, 3s, 5s, and 7s? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but it's a flat 7, so we want to flatten the 7, and then your 8, 1, 2, 3. So we got 2 3s, oops, here and here. Well, again, we have the 3 and the 5 are on the same string, so we have a little conundrum easily solved by referencing the other 3 which we found, 1, 2, 3, and we have the 5 and the flat 7 all right there, so that's actually really convenient. So we're going to jettison this 3 in favor of that 3, and there is your major or your dominant 7 chord. Now another way of doing this is using what you know to find what you're looking for. So we take the major 7 because we know that's spelled 1, 3, 5, 7. And the only difference between the major 7 and the dominant 7 is the flat 7 in the dominant 7. So we know the 7 is flat. So we take the major 7, and we know this is the 1, the 5, and the 3, and the 7. All we have to do is flatten the 7. So that's the other way you can look at this. Taking what you know, knowing what each of the notes is, interval-wise, 1, 1, 5, 7, 3, right? And this is, again, why it's important to know not just what you're playing, a major 7, but what are the intervals, 1, 5, 7, 3, because, oh, I want to play a dominant 7. I just have to flatten the 7 of the major 7 to create the dominant 7 chord. Okay? It's that basic. I know, I make it sound really easy. In some cases, it actually is. Let's move on now to the minor 7 chord. As you know, from previous examples in the 6th and 5th string segments, a minor 7 chord is 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. So here we're going to take what we know to find what we're looking for. We have the major 7 here because it has a 1, 3, 5, and 7. Now we want to flatten the 3 and we want to flatten the 7. So it's really that straight ahead. And here is the shape right there. Now your fingering will be 1, 4, 2, and 3. Now we're not going to consider playing the flat 3 here or the flat 7 here, in part because, well, this is the only reasonable 5, and we want the root to be on the bottom for this example. So we opt to use this flat 3 and this flat 7 so that we can be fairly consistent in how we're approaching this, okay? So let me demonstrate. Okay, the minor 7 chord. Now, sometimes the fingering can be a little bit wonky, but you want to get used to it anyway. Now, again, we want to spell the minor 7, 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, flatten the 7. 1, 2, 3, flatten the 3. So you have this flat 7 and the flat 3 right next to each other with the 5 and the 1. So now this is the recommended fingering. Now some people will do it this way, and I totally get it, but I really want you to finger it this way. It's a little bit more natural because your fingers fall this way more naturally, and then you just bring your little finger in. All right? It's really pretty straightforward. You take the major 7 chord, and you know this is a 3 and this is a 7. Just flatten both of those, and that's it. There you go. Let's now look at the inversion of the minor 7 chord. All right? So we're going to keep it simple, again, and we're going to take the flat 3. And we're going to move it over to the 6th string because we know the 6th string and the 1st string are both E strings, right? And so if we take this 3 and flatten it, we can take that 3 and flatten it. All right? So we're going to retain the 1 and the 5 and the flat 7 here. We're just going to take this flat 3 and move it over there. So we're going to mute the 5th string and the 1st string as a result. Your fingering, well, okay, so your shape first will be like this to here to there. Your fingering, again, will be 1, first finger here on the root, 2nd finger on the flat 3, 3rd finger on the flat 7, and 4th finger on the 5. Okay, let me demonstrate. All right, let's do the inversion of the G minor 7. It'll be G minor 7 over B flat, which means the B flat is on the 6th string. It's the lowest note because we're moving it from here over to here, right? And we know that's the flat 3 because we have the 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, flat 3, right? So we're going from that. And what we're going to do is we're going to move the 2nd finger all the way over, and then we're going to move the 3rd finger over 1 string, and then we're going to mute the 1st and the 5th strings. There you go. Very cool sounding. This is still your root, but we're putting the flat 3 on the bottom, so it's the first inversion because the 3 is on the bottom. All right? Pretty cool stuff. You want to learn this. Okay, the last chord for this demonstration is going to be the minor 6. So if you go up about halfway on the right-hand column, or halfway down, you'll see the minor 6. 1, flat 3, 5, 6. All right? Because we want our root on the 4th string, we're sticking with that. So we have 1, flat 3, 5, and 6. All right, so we're going to use something a little more familiar here. We're going to go back to the major 7. Okay? Now, we have a 1, and we want a flat 3, so we're going to flatten that 3. And we have a 5 here, but now we want a 6. So 7, flat 7, 6. Okay, so here's your shape right there. 1, 5, 6, flat 3. All right. Now, your 1st finger, your 3rd finger, your 1st finger covering that because you're barring this, and your 2nd finger right there. Okay? Let me demonstrate. Okay, so now we're going to build a minor 6. Now, you've got the diagram there, but let's say you don't have the diagram, but you want to build it rooted on the 4th string, and in this case, again, we're in G. So the major scale, find your 1s, 3s, 5s, and 6s, because we know from the dictionary, the minor 6 is spelled 1, flat 3, 5, and 6. But we just want to find the 3s, 5s, and 6s right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, flatten the 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ah, the 5 and the flat 3 are on the same string. So we know from previous examples we need to look to see if there's another 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 1, 2, 3. Ah, there is another 3. We flatten that, so now we have our flat 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have our 5 now, and then where's our 6? There's our 6. So we got a 1 and a 6 on the same string fret, so we can bar that. Our flat 3 is over here, and our 5 is here. And there's your minor 6. Now, does this shape look a little familiar to you? Let's move it over one string. Everything over one string. Now you're rooted on the 5th string, playing the same fingering. It's just a minor 7. And then you move it over again one string, everything over one string each. We're in the 6th string, and that's a dominant 7 chord. So you play this shape on the 6th string, dominant 7. 5th string, minor 7. 4th string, minor 6. You knew chords you didn't even know you knew because the fingering is exactly the same. That's pretty cool stuff in my book. Okay, one last thing I want to cover here is below the dictionary, you'll see key, and then you have a whole bunch of stuff written below that. The key is basically just that. It is going to identify certain symbols that are used in writing things out. For example, in the real books, when you write out a minor 7 chord, for example, an F sharp minor 7, they write F sharp, the pound symbol, like everybody else does, but instead of a small m, they will use a hyphen or the minus symbol, and then the 7. So F sharp minus 7, F sharp minor 7. That's all that means. Some will use a small m to reference minor as well. Okay? So be aware of that. And then another one, a little circle like the degree symbol when you see 37 degrees, right? So you'll see D degree symbol 7. Well, that's that little degree symbol means diminished. So D degree symbol 7 is D diminished 7. Now some people will write out dim, D dim 7, very clearly, D diminished 7. So these are two examples of what I'm talking about when it comes to deciphering how things are written out. Ironically, every one of these symbols is standard. There is no one preference over another. It's like augmented chords use the plus symbol. So E plus means E augmented, and augmented means sharp 5. Some might just write out E sharp 5. So it just depends. Or E aug, A-U-G, 5. Or E aug, just saying aug because it's assumed the 5 is raised and sharpened. So again, these are all standard practices. And you need to be familiar with the different symbols that are used because no single one is considered the de facto standard, right? I tend to use a very a consistent approach when I write things out, and so do other people, but they may not use the same approach I use. So as a result, you need to be familiar with the different ways these symbols are used. And that's what the key is all about below the dictionary. Okay, so I just thought I'd pass that along. Okay, there you go. That is part 3, the 4th string root in how to build chords from scratch. This was an important segment because the 4th string rooted chords are ones that are not very commonly known to a lot of guitar players. The other cool thing about 4th string rooted chords is they are given to the application of inversions to create some really cool voicings. I did the very simple inversion of just using the 3 from the 1st string to the 6th string to demonstrate the idea. But you're free to go ahead and try any approach you want with regard to using inversions and get some cool voicings going. All right, so that'll do for this segment. See you soon. Hey, thanks for watching. If you press the little red button down there in the corner, you'll be subscribed to Outsmart Your Guitar. If you then hit the notification bell, you'll be informed when we upload new material, which is usually around once a week. Below the video in the description, you will see a link that will take you to where you can download a PDF of the lesson material that accompanies this video. All lessons contain a link to give you access to the written material for that lesson. Below that, you will see a link to Patreon Outsmart Your Guitar, where I have a lot of material that isn't included here. So you may want to check that out. There's 2 levels of subscription. I'd really appreciate if you would become a patron by subscribing at one of the 2 levels and help support my efforts to continue to provide high quality lesson material for you, to help you learn, play, and grow to become the guitar player you desire to be. All right, thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate it. And hey, we'll see you soon.